welcome to another edition of the Modern Farming Podcast, where agriculture meets education, innovation, and outreach.
We're your hosts, Chris and Tara, and together we're growing knowledge about the world that feeds us.
Yes, we are. And Tara, I'm so excited today because we've got a guest that I'm really excited for. I love hot sauce. A lot of people do. I know your husband, Matt, loves hot sauce a lot, and I know you like it as well. So our guest today is all about hot sauce, but he's got a twist on how he does his things with the sustainable farming. So I'm really excited to hear from this guy. So with saying that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Evan Ratzlaff. He is the owner of Swamp Dog Sauce, located on the east central side of Florida. And a friend of ours. We've worked with Evan on some local projects, as well as definitely had some of his delicious tasting hot sauce. So Evan, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Cool. So Evan, tell us a little bit about yourself and Swamp Dog Sauce and what it's all about.
For sure. So I'm 33 years old, father of one, and God-fearing man. I thoroughly enjoy hot sauce. I think the very first time I had it was from the city that I'm trying to build a food waste collection route with. So I was at a little place called Dogs R Us, and I was staying over at a friend's house, and he gave me, or we went there and we got the hot wings, and they said, the medium's pretty darn hot. And I remember, I think I had a cold or something like that, and sure enough, it was hot enough that my nose is running and everything. But like with anything spicy or anybody who loves spicy, you kind of notice that like bit of euphoria you get from it. So for me, I was like, this is really good, but also like I can breathe again, So that was kind of a plus from it. And I think from there, I was pretty much hooked. Fast forwarding a lot. Through college, I worked in quite a few different scratch kitchens. I also attended a lot of different like music and arts festivals. And through those opportunities, I found the opportunity to volunteer at these festivals with a composting company called Green Vibes. So I think I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to speak too much about them. It's been so long. But they do, at the time, they were doing an event food waste collection. So the first time I volunteered was mainly just you're allowed to hang around the stages and listen to music and check out the art installations, but you got to be picking up trash. You got to encourage people to put their waste in the right receptacles. Through that, they offered me a paid gig to work out at Bonnaroo up in Manchester, Tennessee, I think it is. And there I was able to drive around a box truck and actually go to each of the vendors and pick up all the food waste, and we dropped it off in like the behind the scenes of it. So yeah, that was stinky. I don't think we were necessarily doing it right, but then again, you have so much waste coming in so fast over a 1 week period. It's a little harder to keep up. You got a ton of green and it's hot, so it's kind of hard to balance that with no brown around when it's a farm field, not really much woods or anything like that around there. So yeah, as far as that went, I then was working with tech for a while. So I was in the tech industry, which allowed me to like kind of focus a little bit more on my hobby. So I'd say I got bit by that, the plant lust bug of just seeing how prolific peppers produce, seeing through other Facebook groups the value of these peppers, and realizing like this is a really nice hobby. It's not necessarily like overtly lucrative, but it's still something that would be, some side money for, any other ventures. And through that, I started composting my own food waste from my kitchen, and just kind of giving it to giving my hot sauce that I would produce to friends and family, and just getting like very good return. People saying these are really great flavors. Like I really like it. I'd like to buy more. Then, due to my lack of experience, or maybe the way that contracts fell, they weren't able to sign up two of these like really big contracts. So the team of 15 went down to a team of two. And so I was like the first or second round of cuts for that. So I was kind of stuck, just leaving it in God's hands, saying, all I got at this point are these peppers and these plants, and trying to find a way to cut costs, but not be greasy about it, not outsource it to where it's losing the heart and soul of the flavor itself. So that's where I started calling FDACS, asking about, recycled bottles, as long as we're heat treating and sanitizing, is there any issue? Talked to head of food safety there, and he said it's perfectly fine. I see no reason why not. I've done further research on that because, a verbal agreement isn't necessarily something that's going to keep you safe. So think like a kombucha shop or a craft beer place, like a brewery, or even like larger than that, it would be like Coca-Cola. All of these entities I'm naming are practicing a post-consumer recycle. So that's kind of what we're operating on with that, is that you come in with your growler of beer that you took home from the brewery, you hand it to them, they take it to the back, they wash it, they give you a fresh new one. So that's kind of the same way that I operate. Orlando City Kombucha also kind of does the same thing. I've started talking to him about like how to get into markets and stuff, and he was, collecting the bottles. Whether or not they were washed, he would take them and then take one of his fresh, like verified, clean ones and fill it up for his customer and hand it off. One of my early supporters had introduced me to compost, O-Town compost. So he was like, you're already kind of doing the recycled bottle thing. And, like O-Town compost does this, so maybe you could get compost from them. But what I saw at like more of an abstract, further back level was this is a food waste collection system that I could apply to it. Not only am I creating a sustainable hot sauce through recycled bottles, but also like how do I make an impact so strong that you can literally taste it? And that's become like part of like my marketing and whatnot, is that's what we're aiming to do. We're aiming to be, Swamp Dog is aiming to be the flavor of sustainability, making an impact so strong that you can literally taste it. And that's, that's kind of where we are today. I also have started to put towards some of the other compost customers. I've started to offer installing gardens for them so they can see their food waste at work. It's a little bit less legwork to look in your backyard than to ask them to go out to, a farm where the food waste is being taken and used. So that's it's gotten some good response from it for sure. So I have a few of those customers lined up. So that's kind of the story behind it. However, with like the logo and labeling, as far as what I was trying to do with that is, I wanted it to be local. I wanted it to be kind of Florida based, and the majority of what I think anybody outside of Florida thinks of Florida as is either like they're picturing either like Miami or they're picturing a swamp. So because of that, I was like, okay, swamp. And I have a Catahoula leopard dog, which is known as a swamp dog. So I was like, Swamp Dog, that sounds like a cool name. So we'll just do Swamp Dog sauce. It's nice and easy, kind of rolls off the tongue. And everybody loves a good mascot. So Lula is the is the one at the forefront. I had my wife design the logo for me. I gave her the idea. She drew it all up.
That's awesome.
For sure. Yeah. So that's kind of where we are now.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the impact of the composting having on the local soil and agricultural production?
Okay. The way that I like to look at it is like, let's use the idea that, and I hear this more on like, people who are into meditation, people who are into like yoga, like that area of life, that the trees are an extension of our lungs. And what do we mean by that? That they're producing the oxygen that we breathe. So the way that I see that is that if the leaves are doing that for you, then what's happening with the roots? I'd like to kind of like correlate the roots to the same as like the gut health of yourself. So if the roots aren't getting enough nutrients, then the plant isn't producing something that's going to be as nutrient dense or nutrient rich, which means then your gut itself is being starved a bit, right? So I think I was listening to something a little earlier today, one of these YouTube presentations. Somebody was explaining that every living organism has a microbiome. So your if you're taking care of the microbiome of the plants that you're producing or the fruits that you're producing, then those are going to in turn take care of your microbiome. So I'd say as far as like the kind of impact it has is that it's a lot more organic, due to the fact that it is locally sourced from waste. It's the composting aspect is that we're feeding microbes in a way that like you're not eating the coffee grinds, you're not eating the banana peels, you're not eating the eggshells. That just as an example. All of that is now being processed elsewhere, but then those nutrients become available and are then transferred to the plant. So if we're going like more on like environmental impact, then I would say because it's local, you're reducing emissions because you don't have a truck shipping it to a store where it sits to pretty much die or become dormant and be a lot less nutrient rich than something that's not necessarily your backyard but right around the corner. So I feel like that is one of the ways that it has like a much larger impact on it as far as agricultural productivity goes. Just those examples alone kind of highlight that it is a little bit more cost effective. What we're kind of aiming with at productivity on the agricultural side is that you're going to want more water retention, so you're not using as much of that. You want less erosion, and composting helps with all of this. I know you guys have said some of your listeners are already kind of like into the composting game, so I don't want to be too redundant or explain something in a way that they go, that's not exactly right. So that's about kind of how I see it.
You just there's a lady known as the godmother of soil or something like that named Lane Ingram, and you just basically recited her entire thousands of dollars worth of information that she educates in a layman's terms of a person who's just making sauce. So you absolutely right on the head. You're 100% correct in that.
And I will say that I have listened to a lot of her videos as well. I do as much research as I can before I sit there and shell out any money to get a certification, so that at least like I'm starting off on a good foot.
Yeah, you're right on with that. So that compost stuff is cool, but your business doesn't work without a good hot sauce. So I want to ask another question about the hot sauce. So I've spoken to you. We're becoming acquaintances at a number of different functions, and I listen to you how you're planning your sauces, what you make out of them. And I'm really impressed with the thought you have behind it. Right, you're not just putting some peppers and sugar and vinegar in a blender and hitting the button. Can you give the listeners just a little insight into kind of how you come up with your recipes? Because I'm going to be honest, when I taste your hot sauce, when anyone does, you can definitely I'm going to use the word gourmet, but there's a definite process that you went through to get the flavors that you do. It's not by accident, and it's not boring by any means. So if you could just tell us kind of how you come up with your sauces a little bit, I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah, sure. First off, thank you so much. Doing my best not to cry. That kind of that response is exactly what I'm looking for. I thoroughly appreciate when people come up to me and say, "Oh, I got to use your sauce. I made it with this and with chicken. Have you tried it with ribs yet?" Or just saying, "Oh, I gave it to my dad and he was like super surprised." You got another customer for sure. He's already halfway done with the bottle, and that was only 2 days. So like things like that, that is what keeps me going. Now, as far as creating the flavors and putting them together, I think the idea was like I started with what do I eat normally? and what am I already doing, right? So that's kind of how I created the Carolina hot mustard. Was I was like, I love a Carolina Gold barbecue, but I want a little bit of a kick from it, you know. So I decided, you know, I could use habanero. It's got like a nice fruity heat to it, and just try that out. Also, because it's a barbecue, why don't we smoke some of the ingredients? You know, so that way you're allowing somebody else to not have to put in so much work. So you're providing a little bit more of a level of convenience through giving somebody that like grilled taste without having to fire up the grill and, you know, oh, don't have charcoal, you know, whatever kind of problems you run into, or it's raining now. So now, you know, whatever I put on the grill is about to be soaked. So it's just different things like that that I feel like just by taking on that little bit of extra sweat equity myself, I'm able to make it a little bit more enjoyable. So after making that one, I made one where I was like, well, what if I take like basically throw the kitchen sink at it, let me smoke every single one of the ingredients for as long as possible, including the salt. And that one is now a staple at the Leaf Lounge in downtown Titusville. The name of that one is Smoke Show. So I mean, it's got a ton of vegetables in it, so you're getting a really rich flavor from it. The balancing of the heat that I used in that one is with brown sugar, so it's almost like hot sauce and barbecue had a baby in a very good way. Plus, the Leaf Lounge is a cigar bar, so with it being fully smoked, I feel like that also made it to where, as I marketed it to them, it was like this is a custom tailored sauce to your business model. You know, so there's no disruption of flavor between a toke on your cigar with a eating of a chicken wing or anything like that. Um, However, I think just to kind of pull back a little bit instead of getting into each and every flavor, because I've gone off the rails with the amount of flavors I have. I look at an ingredient and I say, okay, what can I do to this? If I'm not growing it myself, because garlic takes way too long, and I love garlic, but waiting for that means I would have a very small batch once in a while for people to enjoy that has garlic in it. So if I'm going to store buy garlic, what can I do to alter that flavor or add a little bit more of like an artisan touch to it? So I've started to ferment and blacken garlic. So you end up with a like a umami kind of molassesy style of garlic, the black garlic. Plus, black garlic is very expensive to buy, so that adds to it being a little bit gourmet due to the fact that it takes so long to do. It takes about 40 plus days, but it doubles the amount of antioxidants in it, and it's yummy. I mean, I can pop a clove out and eat it like it's candy. So that's some of the ways that I like to play with flavors. Is just try to find different things to do with it. Um, I do a honey fermentation as well, because that it's about like what can I do that's low impact as far as effort, but also like high impact on flavor or health. So honey fermentation has been around for a really long time. I do it with my garlic and my peppers, and I'll throw in like a little mix of like maybe organic apple cider vinegar, um, just to be able to, you know, sell that to other individuals saying, hey, look, this is actually really good for your gut health. Um, and then, yeah, I'll just combine it with anything that I'm actually growing myself as well.
Cool. That is just awesome to hear what goes into your thoughts, because it comes out in the sauce. I love it. It's great.
For sure. Thank you.
So tell me why it's important to use recycled bottles as your packaging choice. How does that overall sustainability mission come into play there? Because it looks really important in your business model.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, to put it from like just a businessman's perspective, I was using Amazon, so the cost of the bottles was a big issue. So I was just looking in a way to reduce it. Once I saw that I could get it approved once I got it approved from FDACS, I realized this is great. This is actually not only am I reducing the food waste from the landfill, but there are a slew of different restaurants that have just hot sauce bottles sitting there, just little 5 ounce woozies that I use. That now I can approach them and say, hey, if you guys give me these bottles, you know, I could give you some sauce in return, or you know, so like that's it's important to me because of the idea that being able to tell people that it's recycled, people really like that. I do also offer like these little punch cards. So essentially, you every 10 bottles somebody brings me, they will get a free sauce bag. So that's one of the ways that I've been able to get like a little bit more loyalty from customers or people to actually just make a very low impact effort on their day-to-day life to start you know, saving their bottles, because I'm sure they from what I've done with Reddit is I've joined a lot of those hot sauce communities, and there are a ton of people where it's like the wife's angry at the husband because he's got a cabinet full of really cool bottles, but he doesn't know what to do with them. He wants to keep them, but he's not sure. So those are kind of my target audience where I go, hey, if you got a bunch that's taking up cabinet space, or you eat that much hot sauce and you want to get more hot sauce, you could send them to me and I will send it back to you. So that the way that I do that is I just have them pay for the shipping. And then I'll send it back to them for free. So I'll pay the shipping on my end, essentially.
That's awesome.
And
Awesome.
yeah, for sure. The reason I chose 10 bottles was because that's about the same price that I market my bottles for, that you would pay for shipping. So what you would pay for shipping for 10 bottles to ship it to me is about the same price that it would be if you just bought a bottle without paying the shipping on my website. So that's where I was like, this is about around the same price. You're getting a bit of a discount, and I'll give you a choice of whatever flavors I have. So that's kind of the way that's been really helpful.
So you really thought that through then. That's cool.
For sure. Yeah, I think, and then just adding a little bit of an extra like artistic touch, allowing like a little bit more of my creativity to flow, is that I get to individually hydro dip each one of them. So that's been really cool.
People you have a real unique paint on the outside of the bottle that's different from anything you'll see. It almost looks kind of tie-dyed looking, if for those that haven't seen one. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So you've got the hot sauce going, you've got the bottle recycling, and then you've done, you know, food waste collection before, right? So you kind of were you knew that, you had a background in that, and now you're bringing it all together. How does the food waste go with your different customers? You do businesses, but you'd also do people's homes if they want, and how do you run that?
So essentially, when I'm at the markets, I kind of explain it to them. That's restaurants and residents. It's businesses entire, so either commercial or residential. So now, and that depends. Like some businesses are smaller than others. So like there's a coffee joint that only gives me their cold brew coffee. Once it's spent, you know. So I'll get all those coffee grinds from them. Whereas like there's another seafood restaurant that I'm trying to work on right now that I know they're going to be producing over, you know, I'll have to get a different size of totes and stuff because I operate with basically a 5-gallon bucket. I do it either on a bi-weekly or weekly basis. So it's really just dependent on people's needs. I've put together a questionnaire to kind of ask some people just to see where they qualify. And at the same time, I offer free training courses for businesses to get all the employees on board. We see the problem areas. So if you have like a tea and a coffee station where you fill up the drinks before you bring it out to your customers, then that might be a good area for us to put a bucket there. If you have a prep station, that instead of having it to where trying to make it as streamlined as possible so that no employees, no workers feel like they're obligated to do more and they're not getting paid more. And making it just a little bit seamless, changing it to where like, all right, the trash is there. You normally threw it away there. Just move it over 7 inches and put it in the bucket instead. And that's kind of been the aim as far as it is lately. And at the same time, I think with combining both of them, it's really good because you have 2 different target audiences. So you have people who are already on board for composting, but maybe they don't love the hot sauce, but at least they know they're contributing to a company that is producing, the fruits of the labor so others can enjoy it. And what they would get back would be the compost or compost tea sprays. So aside from them, maybe, you're a hot sauce enthusiast, but you have no desire to grow anything. Then you also know that you are giving back to your community by fortifying the soil of other growers around you. So that's where I, try to balance that and get more people on board essentially. So those hot sauce customers, if they have no use for the compost, the least that I could do is give them free hot sauce in return. And it's not necessarily free since you're still paying to put gas in the tank to pick up the food waste, but it equals out to about the same amount.
That's
cool.
awesome. You have such a range of things that your company is offering, not just the hot sauce, but the
For sure.
sustainability there is awesome.
Thank you.
So Evan, we're getting close to the end. I think we've covered pretty much what you're doing there with your sauces and things. What would be a final thought or words of wisdom that you want to leave the audience with here as we wind down our interview?
Yeah, for sure. Let's see.
Take your time.
I think you shouldn't stop yourself from trying to find out what you're capable of. Just this weekend with that garden installation customer, I realized, it seemed like such an inconvenient ask of them to say, hey, we can't operate with only one car. Coming from humble beginnings and sometimes not even having a car, I go, you can't, but you're my customer, you're paying for this. I'm not going to put that as the forefront. So long story short, cut to what I'm trying to say. I moved 24,000 pounds of cinder block and concrete bags and mortar mix and everything out of these people's driveway by hand with a wheelbarrow, with a couple hours worth of work from my brother, just calling and crying and be like, please help me with this. Is just by the time everything was done, I go, wow, I didn't know that I was capable of that. But finding myself in this position in life and pushing myself to do it, really, I think nobody should have to wait to find out that level of capability. It's very much a just do it. It's very much a give it a try, or a just start type thing, a little bit cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. That I feel like try to find what roadblocks are in your way for whatever mission you want to put yourself on, and don't let that stop you. I think trying to push past those and getting some action on the board before, allowing yourself to find 1,000 reasons why not to do it and stay exactly where you are is kind of what I'd like to leave people with, is just find out what you're capable of.
Well, and those aren't words, Evan. You clearly are doing it with all the ventures you've taken, and you're having good success with them. So we appreciate you talking to us. It's about all the time we have for the podcast, but we wish you the best. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you for coming on.
For sure. It was an honor. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks for listening to Modern Farming. Be sure to follow us, share, and join us again as we grow knowledge in the world that feeds us.
Thanks to you, Evan, and best of luck with all of your enterprises that you're working on, and we'll talk soon.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
See y'all.